Now, we often hear the term bug hole shooter or a rifle that shoots tack drivers. We all love to brag about our rifles being pretty much the best out there. And when we consider the overall group size of the rifle, a lot of guys like to cherry pick and say my rifle can shoot 1/4 inch or sub 2 or in the 1s or double O's. Specifically in Benchrest 22, it's pretty hard to do so. 22 rimfire accuracy has a lot of variables involved, and to eliminate all of those variables takes pretty much, the stars to align, so to say. But in today's video, I think you guys are gonna really like this one. I have a Vudoo V22 single shot that I just built, complete Benchrest build, as you guys can see. I'll go over the whole rifle build in a minute, but it does have a 26-inch barrel. And today we're gonna be shooting some Benchrest targets, simulating a USBR or a ARA Benchrest style match. And as you guys can tell, I'm indoors, and I do have the liberty to shoot indoors at a 50-yard range here. And that allows me to eliminate a majority of the variables out there. Obviously, shooter error could be involved. But to eliminate some of that shooter error, I have a X tripod. It's essentially a knockoff of the Seb Mini. And I have some ammo that I believe shoots very well. So in today's video, let's see what a Benchrest rifle will do. Stick around. The rifle sits inside this Revolution stock. It is in birchwood. It is a laminate stock, but it does have an aluminum bedding. The stock itself is made by Revolution, which is a sister company of Keystone Manufacturing. This can be purchased at Urban Rifles. That's where I got this one. And you can see that it has a very wide forend, 3-inch forend, that is scooped, and that really helps with getting the thing to pretty much slide back and forth. Now, as far as the barrel, like I said, this is a 26-inch barrel. It's a Mueller Works 1 in 16 twist, 8 groove. Now, a lot of guys are saying, what's the optimum barrel length for a 22 rimfire? And there's a lot of videos out there trying to go over the velocities or optimum velocities, or the optimum velocity of a 22 is obtained around a 16-inch barrel. They're going about it wrong. When we consider Benchrest accuracy, or guys that are shooting Benchrest 22 rimfire, specifically on shoots, which has set national records, it's very well known and synonymous for the 22 rimfire world. For Benchrest accuracy, they all shoot 26-inch barrels. In fact, ammunition manufacturers such as Lapua, SK, or Ely all test their ammunition with 660 millimeter barrels. So the whole concept of a shorter barrel for optimized velocity is incorrect for 22 accuracy. What we're looking for, and the reason why folks run a longer barrel, is to optimize the pressures and also uniform the projectile down the barrel. Let me explain. Since we cannot reload 22 rimfire efficiently, though it can be done, it's just not optimal, ammunition manufacturers like Lapua or Ely will vary the variation of the lot by either velocity, powder charge, or primer composition. More than likely, it's going to be in the primer. Now, the lot numbers that you see here, located in the side of the box, are going to dictate the velocity that it's rated, again, tested at their specific conditions, their test barrel, 660 millimeter barrel at a specific elevation and density altitude. Now, the first two numbers dictated on the boxes of Lapua are usually labeled for the meters a second. So you add a 3 in front of that. So this essentially, this lot number is 333 meters per second. You convert that to feet per second, and I believe this thing is rated at around 1075 or 1080. Now, SK is a little bit different. Some folks have said that the lot numbers on SK don't really necessarily dictate the velocity that it's rated for. Essentially, this one is 06, which is meaning that it's shooting just around 1,000 feet a second. Some Benchrest guys swear that the 1,000 feet a second mark is the way to go, or sub 1,000, around 980 feet a second for 50-yard Benchrest accuracy. But this lot number particularly, shooting out a majority of my rifles that I build, all shoot around a 1060 feet a second mark. So why do we use these longer barrels, and why are longer barrels preferred for Benchrest accuracy? What ends up happening is when you fire a 22 rimfire case, the pressures are going to maximize to its optimum length, what most people say, 16 inches, 14 to 16 inches, where you're going to have peak pressure. The rest of this will be friction. So you rarely see guys running 20-inch barrels in Benchrest, and to kind of give you guys a general idea what I'm talking about is if you ever slugged a barrel down a 22 rimfire barrel, If you have a long one, like a 26-inch barrel, you'll notice that at the last 6 to 8 inches, the slug itself tends to move down that barrel very, very uniform and very, very smooth. And that's essentially what I'm talking about. When this projectile itself travels down that 26-inch barrel, the last 4 to 8 inches are going to uniform the projectile, give you a better standard G1 ballistic coefficient, and that entails better accuracy downrange. So let's go over the target that we're going to be shooting at 50 yards. Now, this is not the official USBR target or the ARA Benchrest Unlimited class. This is pretty much a practice target sent to me by a good friend of mine, Ray from the X-Ring. We're going to definitely treat it like a USBR match, or folks will somewhat call it the green mean target, because using a plug, the green line could justify either a 9 or a 10. So essentially what we're going to do is go obviously for the 10 ring, and how we're going to justify the 10 ring today. You can see that center dot. As long as the wax ring is touching that center dot, that will be a 10 ring. Now if we eliminate that center dot, we'll call that a 10x. So essentially what we're trying to do is eliminate that center dot, all 25 shots. If we could at least get 25 out of 25 in the 10 ring, that will give us a perfect score of 250 by 250. If we can eliminate all the dots in 25 shots, that will be a 25x. So a perfect score in theory is going to be a 250 by 25x. Now as far as the measurements of how big this little center ring is, got a little caliper here. So the center circle, the 10 ring, the yellow, is 0.248. It's kind of hard to focus. The red circle is roughly half an inch, 0.5. The blue is roughly 729 thou. And then the black, which would be the 6 ring, is about 1 inch, so 994 thou. And obviously the white, which will be over an inch, is about 1.25 inches. So again, we're shooting this at 50 yards indoor. I have a majority of the range inside. The target does sit outside, and there's about 8 or 10 feet of open air, but the winds are not too significant today. So the first shots we're going to take down range is the Lapua long range, and pretty confident that this rifle should shoot very well. I believe I do build a pretty good 22, and these things tend to be not picky with these heavy contour barrels. So again, this rifle, it has not been lot tested. Most Benchrest shooters do lot test their rifles in conjunction with shooting Benchrest, obviously. So I do have confidence that this ammo should shoot very well, and it has been with the majority of my rifle builds. So let's see how this thing runs. You'll see how this bolt manipulates. Again, it's a right bolt, left port, left eject. I will preload the tripod slightly, and I'm going to aim at the bottom right. Okay, cold bore, looks like a 10. The trigger that I'm using on here is a Jewel HVR. It is set at 2 ounces. It does have a bottom safety. I forgot to mention that. So a very light trigger. You can see that the chamber is set pretty tight. And I am pretty much free recoiling this thing, other than very slight shoulder pressure on the rear buttstock. Okay, the same hole. A little bit higher. So let's see what the rifle tendency is. Again, we're trying to eliminate all variables as possible. Shooter variable is definitely going to be there. Seems to be the same hole there again. It is favoring a little bit high, so we'll just see how consistent this is. And one more. All right. So it should be pretty warmed up. I'll just do one more just for safe measures. Now I did blow out my shooting spot, which is not bad, but essentially we want to make sure we do not have any flyers out of this ammo. Okay, with that said, let's go ahead and shoot for score here. Starting at number 1, that will be on the top left. And please excuse my perspiration here. I am inside a garage in Arizona on 100-degree weather, so let's use the joystick here. Let's go for the first shot. Hopefully we get a 10 ring here. All right. If you made it this far in the video, I personally want to say thank you for having an attention span greater than my 5-year-old kid. So I want to voice over some thoughts of 22 rimfire accuracy based off my experience building hundreds of these rifles, both for NRL and PRS 22, as well as Benchrest. So for you older, wiser folk in my audience that have been around for a long time shooting 22 rimfire, I'm pretty sure you guys could all agree that 22 rimfire in general has came full circle. When Winchester first came out with the Model 52, it was well known that the 52 was an excellent 22 rimfire shooter. It then later progressed to the Model 52D, as in Delta, with the match grade chamber, and then later the 52 Charlie. So it's well known that the 52D with the matched chamber shot and set a lot of records in the Benchrest realm. Those barrels were 26-inch barrels. What seems to be the trend today is that folks are trying to marry the fact of a Benchrest style rifle, the accuracy of a Benchrest rifle, into PRS or NRL 22. The fact is that these rifles are set up completely different. There is a fine line of reliability and accuracy achieved with a Benchrest build versus a PRS or NRL 22 rifle. Single shot rifles tend to shoot better. The rigidity in the action and the fact that you're not deforming the projectile into the chamber aids in the accuracy. Semi-auto feeding or repeater feeding style actions tend to deform the bullet, and also the fact that you have to extract live rounds tends to have looser chambers for PRS or NRL 22. So take into account that this rifle is completely set up for Benchrest. As you guys can see, I am chambering this thing quite heavily. It is jamming significantly more than what I will set up a PRS or NRL 22 rifle. Can I put these type of chambers into a PRS or NRL 22 rifle? Absolutely. However, when you take an account of shooting positional shots for a NRL or PRS rifle, it's going to actually upset the rifle and lose track of your target. So this is the reason why you cannot put those Benchrest chambers into a NRL or PRS rifle. So this trend of shorter barrels that came around in the past years, from what I can recall, seemed to have came around when NRL 22 or PRS 22 started getting popular. Some top name competitors, as well as folks that have done some testing with optimized velocities, started seeing that velocities are what they're trying to go for, and having a shorter barrel obviously reached the velocities. The ammunition manufacturers like Lapua or Ely have never changed their recipe. They obviously vary the velocities, but they have never really came to conclude that shorter barrels actually perform better. This is the reason why biathlon shooters all still shoot 26-inch barrels to this day. It's not just about the sight picture and apparatus of having a longer barrel for the sight picture. They have all designed to shoot their rifles with the ammunition supplied by Lapua or Ely. Now, manufacturers are always going to follow the trend. Remember, manufacturers are in the business to make money. So if the trend is shorter barrels, well, guess what? We're going to start seeing 16, 18-inch barrels. Funny story is, in today's PRS or NRL 22, that what I'm seeing, the trend seems to fall back to what originally was planned, 24-inch barrels. In today's general competition setting, we are seeing more 22-inch barrels and 24-inch barrels, and some are even shooting 26-inch barrels in the PRS competition. Now, these are very heavy barrels, as you guys can see. They're 1.20-inch diameter or 1 1/4. They're truck axles, essentially. Very heavy rifles, and in the realm of the PRS competitor, we're looking for stability on a prop. Now, for a Benchrest, why I went with a 1.20 style barrel is for a couple things, and it's nothing to do with balance of the rifle. It's to do with the rigidity of the system and the ability to keep the harmonics tamed down as low as possible. So we'll talk about tuners, and I'm of course going to give you guys my opinion. Again, this is based off my experience. I personally do not believe a tuner belongs in a PRS or NRL style rifle. Tuners are developed to help tune the ammunition for a Benchrest application. Tuners vary every single time. The guys that shoot Benchrest, as you guys can see, have ability to shoot sighters, tune the rifle, and then shoot for score. For a PRS or NRL 22 competitor, you literally do not have the time to tune a rifle, and on top of that, throughout the day, density, altitude, and temperatures change, so you're going to have to retune the rifle. Benchrest shooters could always tune before they shoot for score. So some of the top questions that I get are, do you believe tuners work? Yeah, actually I believe tuners absolutely do work in a certain setting, and that's to do with a barrel contour. Now, as you can see, I'm using a 120 contour on this rifle build that does not have a tuner. Again, the rigidity of the barrel reduces the harmonics. You have to have harmonics to tune harmonics, and the tuners that are available in the market today are generally not heavy enough for this kind of barrel to do anything or affect much of the accuracy whatsoever. Why I chose to go with this heavy barrel is simply the fact of its ability to not be picky on ammo. The tuning is done with the lot testing for this type of rifle, and I strongly believe that lot testing for this particular style of rifle is going to supersede its performance versus a tuner. Like I stated earlier, manufacturers are in the business to make money. They're going to follow the trends in the market. And I could easily sell these tuners on all of my rifle builds as well, like some other manufacturers do. However, since I test all of my rifles downrange, I've collected a lot of data and found that actually these tuners actually affect accuracy in a negative way versus it helping. Also, I think about it is in the precision aspect, that if you're going to build a precision rifle, it should be shooting precision results downrange from the get-go. You shouldn't need an item to help compensate for poor craftsmanship. In summary, quality parts and quality craftsmanship is going to give you those quality results downrange. And a lot of folks like to see that quality downrange, but they only want to pay Fiat prices to drive a Ferrari. And yes, you could always put better tires on a Fiat and get better times. However, in the end, it's still a Fiat, and you got to know how to drive. This is just an analogy.
Let's check out those targets.
All right, so according to the chart here, again, this isn't an official USBR target. The USBR targets actually have their 10 ring, which is about the same size as the yellow. So this is actually a little bit tougher. But I did score, according to what I calculated and measured here, just by the naked eye. I, again, do not have a plug or anything. Was a 238 out of 250 for X. So pretty respectable. This isn't my forte. This is something that I'm just getting into, and it is really good practice, 50 yards, to see exactly what this rifle or what your rifle plans on doing. Now, there's obviously tendencies that a rifle likes to do or shoots better certain ways. You know, you could vary your shoulder pressure or whatnot, or just trying different things, free recoil or not. Like I said, each rifle has its own caveats or advantages. So let's try this again, except this time I'm going to use a Lapua Center X. Let's see what that does.
So let's talk about fast twist barrels, and this is a question I often get, folks asking if they could use a fast twist barrel and what my thoughts are. And here's my thoughts. And actually, from my experience, I've noticed that a 1 in 12 twist versus a 1 in 16 twist does not have any accuracy advantage downrange. Anywhere from 100 yards to 460 yards that I've tested have produced about the same accuracy with the optimum range conditions. If you understand aerodynamic jump and the concept of how it works, then you will know that a faster twist projectile is going to induce more AJ. Shooting into the 12 o'clock wind is going to nosedive the projectile. Vice versa, with a 6 o'clock wind, it will climb. So in tail, you're going to be fighting more vertical dispersion. Also, a faster twist barrel will induce more spin drift. Now, if you factor a 5 mile per hour wind, say for instance at 280 yards, right to left, now you are having to compensate not only your spin drift, you also have to keep in mind the wind hold. And for a competitor on the clock, having that calculation in your head is somewhat tough to think about when your time is running out. Also to do with AJ, same thing. If you have to factor a head-on condition, wind, do you need to hold higher or lower? That's something else to think about. So the faster twist, quote-unquote, more stable, is over-trumped just by the environmental factors alone. Some food for thought to think about is most competitors are shooting a full lead projectile. Those projectiles are swaged from the factory, and lead composition itself does vary its BHN value. Those deformities in the lead projectile itself often come out to have more flyers with faster twist rate barrels. You're basically spinning the projectile faster, and an imbalance of that projectile can be induced with a faster twist rate. And from my experience, I can clearly see this because I have more flyers with a faster twist barrel.
So I just pulled the targets here, and to give you guys a general idea how tough this target is to score 10s. Like I said, this is not the official ARA target. This is actually a little bit tougher. The ARA Benchrest or USBR is a little bit more forgiving in the 10 ring, but going with the sighters, you can see all these are measured. These sighters are all sub 2s. So this rifle is a sub quarter-inch shooter, and 5 shots here measured .175. The next 5 shots, including the one outlier right here, was measuring a .18, and then the best shot group right here was measuring a .121. Scoring this is if we break the line and we're in the color zone, we're going to favor the higher ring. But if we hit the actual center dot, that is going to be a 10. If I eliminate the center dot, that's a 10x. So this is a 10. This is a 10x. I pushed down on the paper and it brought that little thing up. Definitely a 10x. A 9. We have a 9 here. 10x for sure. This is definitely a 9. A 9. A 10x. 9. 8. 9. 8. This was that row of ammo that you could see that was throwing some flyers. So in that box of 50, that whole row had some pretty bad shots or bad ammunition in there. The next row of 5 produced a 10x. I got an 8, an 8, a 9, and a 10x. We got a 10 on the last row here, a 10x, a 10, 10, and 10x. So the final score verdict of the second relay here is 234 out of 250 with an 8x. Now this tells me that this rifle is very consistent, and obviously I'm shooting as consistent as possible as well, though I think I can improve with a little bit more time behind the rifle. Now, folks that actually shoot Benchrest will tell you that you want a consistent shooter. That is what's going to win the match. You don't necessarily want the rifle that's going to shoot a perfect score and then tank the next relay. You want something that keeps consistent. And as you can see, 234 on the second relay, 238 on the first relay. These are very respectable scores. Again, these targets are harder in comparison to the USBR targets. And being able to score this high with this type of target is, in my opinion, pretty good. So it's a testimony that the rifle itself shoots very well. The Mueller Works barrel 1 in 16 twist with the Nevis custom chamber, Benchrest chamber. It is chambered to favor Lapua, and the 26 overall length is showing very good results in this particular setup. Now this is again a Revolution stock. This is a very affordable stock, not something that's going to break the bank. It is still a custom stock that has a aluminum bedding. I don't know if you guys can see this. Right in there's an aluminum bedding that the action can sit on top. So you don't necessarily need to do any DEFCON or bedding at all. You could play around with the action torque, action screws for torque, and see what that does with the harmonics, as well as tune the rifle. But essentially how it's configured is, I'm pretty happy with it.